We touched on this earlier. Just every single day, it doesn't matter what newspaper you open, although it wouldn't be in The Guardian, some other madcap ruling about someone who's not been deported or had, fifth attempt at, having their extradition, their deportation overturned. Why do you get 5 strikes? It should be you can't be here by. How can you get to challenge it 5 times? I don't get to go to court repeatedly challenging doing 25 in a 20 mile per hour zone. I just got to take the points. I don't get to endlessly use taxpayers' money to defend myself and say this is nutty legislation anyway. So here you go. The latest one today, adding to the sort of litany of farce, and it's not funny. This is a problem. None of this is actually funny. It does make you put your head in your hands. An asylum seeker who is at least 23 years old. He's got a receding hairline and a old beard, right? And not only that, he's got a wrinkly old face, according to people who've seen the photos. He's got crow's feet, a wrinkly forehead, and a broad chest. I mean, he sounds like, I don't know, he sounds like Vinnie Jones turning around and claiming to be 16 years old in need of a school place. But apparently this Sudanese migrant who arrived on British shores crossing the Channel is not a 16-year-old teenager. But and that's the Home Office who said that. The Home Office, basically did the thing, measure the teeth like a horse, get out, you're too old. But the decision has been overturned by immigration judges. Of course it has. In a recent tribunal, I think they're just on a racket here. The problem is, right, that the immigration judges defending these asylum seekers are earning a packet from it, and we're paying them, and we're also paying the government's bill as well. So it's us just paying for this ridiculous farcical game of legal ping pong when it should be get out of the country. The legal bills have totalled over £30,000, and it's the council who care for the man who he cannot be identified because of legal reasons has been lumbered with those bills. So, whoever is paying their council tax over wherever this person who can't be identified for legal reasons is being sheltered, you've now got to cough up £30,000, which could have been put towards filling potholes or, I don't know, doing things that the public actually want. It sickens me, this. Mm-hmm. It sickens me. And what really disturbed me the other day, so apparently this Hugo Norton-Taylor, who was among the judges that managed the tribunal, was the one who previously permitted a Palestinian family of 6 to stay in the UK via the Ukrainian refugee scheme. Now, that is clearly a bit of a wide bandwidth for interpretation of the law. And it was actually quite heartening for the first time to see Kemi Badenoch and Sir Keir Starmer both going, this legal ruling is wrong. Yeah. Parliament must have sovereignty over its borders. Oh, but what happens? Lady Chief Justice Carr, who also thinks, by the way, that judges should have their own special protection system, their own special police cars and drivers. What world does she live in? Turned around and said, oh, this sort of language attacking judges on the floor of Parliament is going to weaken the judicial system. It's authoritarian. I mean, these people are the authoritarians.
Mm-hmm. And they're undermining our values. I don't know how they're clearly interpreting some element of the law to allow them to make the judgments. And Parliament should therefore change the law. But I think Parliament should bring in something that doesn't allow the judges to come up with they're frankly very woke findings that they have all the time.
Can you imagine, right? Because I've sort of war gamed this one out for when I'm Prime Minister. You need basically a great repeal bill. You can't just get rid of the ECHR. You've got to get rid of all the nonsense that comes with it. The Human Rights Act, which has nothing to do with human rights. It's just the Legal Loophole Act. Criminal law covers the most parts of not being mean and nasty and doing horrible things to other people. You've got to get rid of all of that. You've also got to get rid of the supremacy of these judges and not enable them to ride roughshod. Lord Chancellor should be able to say, no, we're just going to discount that. Home Secretary should be like, you're deported, and there's no appeal to this. Can you imagine a Britain that suddenly turned around and said, we're leaving the ECHR, we're getting rid of the Human Rights Act, and we're stripping judges of their power? The outcry would be, whoa, they've gone tonto. They've basically become North Korea. That's the problem.
Yeah, of course. And this is where, but we've gone completely the other way. It seems that everything that the government tries to do, and successive governments try to do, is undermined as soon as it touches anything to do with the judiciary. And this is why the Rwanda scheme failed, because it wasn't because the government didn't get people off to Rwanda. They didn't get them on the aircraft because every time someone was trying to do it, was appealed and appealed and appealed and appealed, and it took time and time and time and time and time.
I think with that one, though, I've said from the beginning that I thought it was a mad idea only because that was predictable.
Yeah.
And it's not a mad idea if that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But I always said this is going to be the Conservative Party way of being able to come up with a plan that they know is going to be blocked and therefore be able to blame everybody but themselves and deflect responsibility. In many respects, we knew it'd be a waste of time. We knew it wasn't going to get the job done. And I think in that regard, they knew it as well and so went along with it as a clever PR strategy. Cost us a load of money, though. But let's talk about this current government, because if we thought the Tories were pretty feckless, reckless and useless, this lot are just mind-bogglingly thick.
Yeah, well, Keir Starmer clearly said whenever everyone thought the previous government was completely useless, Keir Starmer said, "Hold my beer."
I know.
And he's
we're going to be the grown-ups in the room, back to sensible government. But you look at these people. Rachel Reeves, now a proven fibber, let's say. Embellisher and fibber. Are they big lies? Not necessarily, but they're big enough, I think, to warrant scrutiny, given that she's got such an important role.
If she had been employed in the City of London in an actual financial job and those untruths on her CV came out, she would be fired immediately.
Right.
Now, she's in charge of the City of London, and therefore there's double standards. More two-tier standards.
More two-tier standards. But also, it just strikes me as being a bit thick to be nicking company money to give presents to your bosses.
Yeah.
It strikes me as being a bit thick to, when you're going into politics, embellishing your CV, as if you're never going to have the scrutiny when you want some of the highest offices in the land. Same here with Jonathan Reynolds, the next one who's been a bit thick. The business secretary was told to stop claiming he was a solicitor on his CV by the lawyer's watchdog. Again, if you turn around and say, I'm a solicitor when you're not a solicitor, you then get barred from becoming a solicitor. But he stood in Parliament and said, back in the days when I was a solicitor in Manchester, far harder lifestyle than this as an MP. Excuse me, are you just a moron? First of all, who makes out like being an MP is like, oh, yeah, it's coasting this is easy. That's not exactly going to win you favour. But at the same time, this is lying in Parliament. And I would suggest, given the amount of flack that Boris Johnson got for being a serial liar, a fibber, an embellisher, an exaggerator, then given what they got him for, the petard from which he was hung, was basically, did he have cake, did he not have cake, and how long was he in a room inside his own blimmin' building where he worked anyway? Frankly, this stuff, I'd say, if you can get done for being 10 minutes inside a room of staff that you were in and have to be in as part of your job, but all of a sudden cake was or was not added, and that is the defining factor of whether you stop being Prime Minister, lying in front of Parliament that you are a solicitor, lying on your CV about the experience you have when you become Chancellor, I think is a bit bigger than blimmin' did you eat cake or not.
Well, there's a statute, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that protects solicitors, and if you call yourself a solicitor and you have not been registered and you're doing that, you're actually committing a criminal offence. You're breaking the law. And his excuse today was it was some of my aides that got the posting on LinkedIn wrong. But it couldn't be his aides, because I saw him giving a speech in Parliament where he said, and it's recorded in Hansard, therefore, I am a solicitor, or I was a solicitor. I'm sorry, he's lied. And this is where Keir Starmer's now got a Chancellor who's been proven to be lying, got a business secretary who's proven to be lying. His cabinet is a laughingstock.
Yeah, I mean, but if they turned around and say, if Rachel Reeves said, look, I admit I embellished my CV, it was a moment of stupidity, we've probably all done it, I thought I desperately wanted this job and thought that if I just sort of made things sound a teeny bit better, it would stand me in good stead to become a candidate. I mean, would that then be, well, she's admitted it, she must go? Or would people just go, well, fair enough, at least she's, accept. I don't know, because in politics, the problem is there is so much like, well, now someone's said they're sorry, they've got to be executed. I kind of think we've got, saying that, actually, I don't hear the legacy lead. I don't hear the Beth Rigby standing outside number 10 shouting, will you resign? Are you going to resign? Every time Rachel Reeves walks in, because, again, different rules for them as there were to the last government. But that is also has its sort of limitations playing
it does,
game.
but I think, in Rachel Reeves' case, when the errors had come out, first of all, and she then corrected all of them and put it out there, whether she made a statement or not, I think it would have, the news would have moved on and she'd have got away with it. But once the errors came out, and then we found more errors and more errors and more errors and more issues, then her position has become untenable. And with the business secretary, it's not just the errors; it's then the excuse that's turning around saying it was my aide. No, it can't be. You physically stood up in Parliament. They didn't write a speech for you that you read out.
Shall we? Because we like having the receipts, don't we, here at this channel? We love a bit of truth. We are the home of truth. Shall we see that speech?
Before the last election, I worked as a solicitor in Manchester city centre, and I would travel in to Manchester every day from what is now my constituency.
You didn't work as a solicitor, mate.
Bang to rights.
Or is that... Hold on. He was sort of working, training to be a solicitor. If he said when I was training as a solicitor...
But he said worked as a solicitor.
As a solicitor. Yeah.
Not training, not helping us from solicitors, not training to be a solicitor. As a solicitor. And as a solicitor, the first thing you know is that when it comes to words, words matter. Yes. A comma in a sentence can change everything when it comes to a contract or evidence given in court. So words do matter. And speaking in the chamber in Parliament, it's recorded in Hansard, and that's where the most important words that matter are spoken and formally noted. Do you remember when Angela Rayner turned round? Again, it sort of adds to my sort of disparagement of this frankly talentless, awful cabinet we had lumbered. I mean, for God's sakes, the people running our country in what is essentially a perma-crisis, I wouldn't even have them working on checkouts in Sainsbury's. They're utterly useless. Not saying anything bad about checkouts in Sainsbury's. I used to be a checkout girl at Safeways when it existed. But the point is, they're just so low grade. And I remember Angela Rayner saying to the people who were recording everything she said at Hansard, I want you to record all of my bad grammar because I'm working class. She didn't want the records to be amended to be grammatically correct. And I kind of think, what's that about? I mean, we're not demanding you be grammatically correct, but when it's recorded, it probably needs to be for the same reason that worked as a solicitor and trained as a solicitor are different things. Well, exactly, and the record is kept and kept forever, so that people can refer back to it, and those words will be examined in detail, in the future by historians who are looking at why things happened, and therefore words are important. And he's banged himself to rights, and Keir Starmer should be turning around and saying, you've been caught out, mate, you lose your job. I think he knows if he allows the media to pull that thread, the whole fabric of the cabinets will begin to unravel. I couldn't care less, frankly. Let it happen.